Woo! Hope everybody had a great weekend. Listen, you know what to do if you're on the Glosso America YouTube channel. So hit like and subscribe and turn on your notifications, and let's get after it. Hi, hello, and welcome to the show that 4 out of 5 doctors think is excellent for your average to good health. It's Call It What You Want. I'm Jimmy Conrad alongside Charlie Davies and Tony Miola. And guys, before we get into a great show, we have Luis Robles, former teammate of mine with the U.S., and you as well, Charlie. Goalkeeper Union. Tony Miola is going to come on. He's the technical director for MLS Next. He's going to get into what's happening there with regards to the quality of play. And, of course, we're going to have a recap of American performances around the world. Tones, how was your weekend? How are you doing? What's the latest?
I'm good. The way you ask it, I feel like I'm supposed to tell you something, but it was good. I was here working, and I can't wait to get into the Americans abroad, because that's a lot of there's a lot of things to talk about there. And of course, we'll chat with Luis about this new program that we chatted about. What was that, Thursday of last week, right?
With the great Tab Ramos, who
I can tell you right now.
Chuck, how was your weekend?
I can tell you right now, as much as we want to talk about Americans abroad and who's playing where, I can't wait for this conversation, because I coach right now in the youth ranks. I'm trying to dictate, what tempo is and what technique is and winning games. And so to hear what the U13 and U14 levels are doing across MLS Next and why they're doing it is really important and critical. So I can't wait to have this conversation with Luis Robles.
No, I'm the same. I coach my daughter's U14 team. And one of the things that we're working on right now is, how do you teach feel? Like a feel for the game. And one of the things that I'm trying to get into, and what I see a lot at this age level, whether it's my team or the teams we're competing against, because we're trying to scrape against teams that are better, quote unquote, better than us, is I see a lot of players that don't make runs until the pass is made. And at that point, the play's dead, right? So we're really trying to work on having the run initiate the pass. Every time we see it, even Trinity Rodman scored a great goal for the U.S. against Brazil recently, where she made a great run inside of the outside back and in behind the center back. She gets the ball and she has a little outside of the foot finish. And thank you very much. Right. So that type of reinforcement over and over and over. And so I wonder, using the framework of what MLS Next is trying to do, how much of that is played, defined as quality, right? I think the big question is, how do we define quality and who gets to define it? Is it this Taka company that's doing all the analytics, or I don't know. I guess we should just bring them on. What do we think? We should bring them. Let's do it. We're burying the lead here. Let's bring on Luis Robles, technical director for MLS Next, former teammate. Luis, great to see you. Looking good. How's life?
I feel like that's a really generous introduction. Former teammate on the national team. I was like a blip. Like, I think I barely show up on the media guide to say we're teammates. Well, I'll take what I can get.
2009
I will say,
Kaiserslautern goalie, let's go. You know what I mean?
What else do you want?
Yeah.
A friend of mine is great, but I'll take teammate on the national team. But I feel like that was overly generous. So thank you. You made my Tuesday. It's great to see all you guys.
Okay, yeah, you led the Red Bulls to an Eastern Conference final. I mean, that's
and who did we lose to, Charlie?
I don't know.
And who scored the decisive goal?
I don't know.
There might have been a handball on that, but that was before.
This is why Charlie wanted Luis on.
Exactly right.
This is why he wanted him on.
Exactly right. All right, so Luis, we had a longtime great of U.S. soccer, Tab Ramos, come on last week and take a swing at this new quality of play rankings that the U13 and U14 age groups are going to be having in this MLS Next season, which from the press release, you go beyond the traditional results of the game to focus on the complete performance of individuals and teams. Now, one of the key, I think, things that needs to be brought up, which we didn't mention in the interview with Tab, was the pilot. It's a pilot program, right? So you're just trying it out. And when I think about what we've been doing in terms of the types of players we are producing, maybe we need to try something, right? Why not try a little something to see if that has a positive impact and influence on these players moving forward? But I wanted to give you the floor a little bit to explain why this initiative is happening, where's it coming from, and what the end goal is ultimately for you.
I maybe you should have introduced me as the Ivy League professor, and I want to put my hand up because I'm the person that's behind this. So I have nothing but respect for Tab and what he's done for this country and what he's done specifically for Major League Soccer is incredible. So I love that he even paid respect by even bringing it up so that we could have this conversation. But again, it's even the people on this call, it's people who have gone and had great careers and they want to turn back around and continue to contribute to the game. And we all contribute in different ways. And specifically in my job, I'm able to have these conversations about player development. But Jimmy, I'm glad that you brought it up the way that you did, is 13s and 14s, what we're doing with quality of play and the introduction of a competition at that age group, it really is a pilot. And using quality of play, it gives us an opportunity with this group, Taka, who's our development partner, to assess performances, whether it's as a team or as individuals, in a different way. Because what is different about MLS Next compared to every other youth league that's in the landscape is our connection to the pro game. All right, the 3 letters at the beginning of MLS Next is that connection, Major League Soccer. And when we look at the 13s and 14s specifically, and sorry, what I mean by that is our objectives are going to be a little bit different. So our key objective is we want to grow the game. And then our second key objective is to develop the next generation of talent. And so even just having that lens in which we're looking at this gives us the freedom and the flexibility to tinker, to see, is there a different way that we can do this without changing the core values of developing those players that want to compete, players that are going to succeed at the top level. And when you look globally, just in some of other leagues and what they're doing at this age group, it's really where they tinker the most. So I don't know if you've seen, but in England, in the UK, the Football Association, they're at the U13s going back to smaller format. And the reason why they want to do that is through their data and through their analysis, they've seen that key age, the kids need to be touching the ball more, and they're not touching it enough. In Germany, they're even more radical. The U13 age group, they're removing goalies. They're putting 2 small goals on the end line. And the reason they want to do that is they feel like down the road they can develop goalies, but those goalies need to understand how to play on the field. And so there's different radical initiatives. I think this is also one of them. But what is given in these age groups is because they're formative and they really are focused, and the priority is focus. The focus is on developing players. There is room to tinker. There's room to experiment and even ask, like, are we doing it right? And I think that's the question that we're asking is what role does competition play in the development of a player at these key age groups, 13s and 14s, and what quality of play rankings does. It allows us to not forsake the individual development. It allows coaches to evaluate team performance in a different way, but then the top ranked teams will be invited to a competition at the end of the year.
So Luis, I guess my question is, in understanding quality of play, what is the highest level in terms of quality of play? Is there one standard? Is there one formation? Is there one tactic? Is everyone supposed to play the same formation, same tactics? So that's level, because, if you have a Brazilian style coach versus a German style coach versus a French style coach versus a Japanese or South Korean style coach, they all, I guess, would rate quality of play differently. Mm-hmm. So how is that kind of factored into this? And then is there any account for winning and losing at all, or goals scored versus, goalkeepers making an incredible save? Like where are the rankings, I guess, in the style of play?
Yeah, so Charlie, there's a lot there. So I'm going to do my best to address all of it. But
yeah,
this has been a year-long initiative. And next week, or going into this weekend, is the landmark event for MLS when it comes to youth development, Generation Adidas Cup. And so it was actually at Generation Adidas Cup last year that we started to tinker with this, because really, to your point with what you said, there's going to be so many different styles. And there's no reason for MLS or MLS Next to say this is the style. You have to play this way. No, we want to give freedom. We want to give latitude for coaches to have their personality to implement with that players, but the priority has to be developing those players. And so when you go to Generation Adidas Cup, you're going to have an Italian team, a French team, an English team, a Japanese team, and they're going to play different styles. And so that's when last year did the analysis for the first time. And what we're able to see, because what quality of play is, it's taking all the significant actions that occur in a game. And let me ask you a question. Usually in a match, what's the most significant action?
The goal scored.
Yeah, exactly, scoring a goal. And so that significance is going to play a role, and then sometimes a higher role when it comes to the score, but it's not the only thing that is significant, because then there's chances created. And what we want to do is we want to highlight those moments that get aggregated in a goal scoring chance, that result in a goal scoring chance. And so when you look at the pass that was made or the tackle that was made, those get scored. When you look at the turnover that was made that led to the goal, or even the save, that gets scored. So I think naturally when you hear quality of play, it's going to lean towards, well, that's subjective. But through the analysis, we have in the 13s and 14s broken down over 2,500 games. In those 2,500 games, we have almost 600,000 actions. And so it's through those actions, we give each one a score, which then aggregates in the overall quality of play score for the match. And then as that goes throughout the season, obviously it's an average, so it ebbs and flows. But I think what we're looking to do is we're helping coaches evaluate their team performance in more than just goals and wins and ties and losses. It's just a different way of looking at it. But in the end, what we're also hoping is through the introduction of competition, that will also play a role in these key age groups at 13s and 14s that will help with development. Because, I mean, I have to agree with what Tad said. Like, we need to be competing. We need to be competing. But when you look at, and because you guys mentioned you're also coaching, competition is going to be prioritized in a different way at U11. And it's going to be prioritized in a different way at U14. And it's going to be prioritized in a different way at U17. And so what we're looking to do at 13s and 14s is the priority has got to be player development. We're trying to develop better professionals. But we also don't want to forsake the benefit that competition brings to player development. So this is a pilot, if you will, but it's also an innovative way of identifying the teams that are playing well while also not making the priority just about the competition.
Luis, I think it's important. I have so many questions about this, but can you, for our viewers that maybe don't know the program, maybe they didn't read the Athletic article or hear last episode, kind of lay out the program, because there are elements in this that kids can get involved in. And I think one article I read said about 80% of the kids have already signed up. It may be more by this point, but explain that they have a red signal and a green signal, and because I think then the questions become a little bit more pertinent if everyone understands what we're dealing with.
Yeah. So the website Taka.ao is where all MLS Next players and coaches and scouts can go to. And when I mean scouts, it can be national team scouts, it can be MLS Academy scouts, it can be college coach scouts. And so they're able to see now all of the players, but all of the players, over 16,000 of them, have access to the video exchange. And so historically, there's been one place where coaches could go watch video. But then I've asked, just within my role, when I think about my own professional development, it was at age 28, 29, when video just became more available. It was through different software and programs that a player can now watch all their touches, they can watch all their actions. And one part that was huge in my own personal development is whether or not I would watch the goal I gave up, is whether or not I would watch the mistake I made. And it was just embracing that learning. It allowed me to catapult and become a better goalkeeper, become a better player. And so that's what we introduced is now we want players to watch video, and now they have access free. All of our players have access to watching their video. And if they want to watch the next opponent that they're going to play, they're able to watch that as well. And then we took it one step further. Let's break down their actions, but not every action, right? Because if Jimmy passes square to Charlie and then Charlie back passes to Tony and then they played out to the winger, like you could say that that's great that you got to see that action, but how much of that is going to really help them in their learning. You want to see the key actions. You want to see the significant actions. And so that's where we focus, knowing that maybe we don't want to break down all 100 passes that a player makes, but we do want to break down the dozens of key actions that could have led to a key play or a goal scoring opportunity or a goal or giving up a goal. And we want to provide that for all of our players. And so now for the first time through TACA, all 16,000 players, all coaches have access to a video exchange to watch any video. And then what we've given is players the ability to create their own profiles. And it's within their profiles, they can see their clips. Now, I will add, there is an upgraded version of it where they can see all of their clips, but what's given to every single player is the ability to create a profile and see some of their clips. And then the other part is they can watch all of the video. And so it like, that's the thing about player development. I've only been in this space for 2 years. And the same way when I played goalie, it'd keep me up at night as I made a mistake or as I was getting ready for an opponent, is just what consumes me. And now within my role, this puzzle of player development consumes me. Honestly, it's something that I think about, I dream about. It's like, how can we advance Major League Soccer? How can we develop better players? How can we get closer to winning a World Cup in this continent? And it's through the work that we're doing at MLS, we're trying to answer those questions. But that puzzle, there's a lot of pieces. And so is TACA the answer to it? Is that going to get us closer to winning the World Cup? Probably not. Is competition at U13s and 14s going to get us closer to winning the World Cup? Maybe. Is our players watching video going to develop better professionals? Possibly. But again, these are all pieces of that puzzle that we're trying to put together, because the goal and the objective is to develop better professionals, to elevate the league, and this will have a natural positive byproduct on national teams.
Tones, were you going to follow up? Because I'm ready to jump in.
Yeah. Well, I didn't ask a question. So
I think Tony had like literally 50 questions pop up at once.
I'm a guy that's been in youth development for over 15 years. I was a scout for U.S. Soccer. I was in the youth national team programs for 5.5 years. My biggest responsibility was finding players at different age groups, right? That kind of stood out. So I feel like when I read this program, and I've done a lot more research since, as much as I could, as much as they're out there, Luis, I got to be honest, I feel, one, like we're creating robots, because we didn't get into the fact that when these kids watch the video, there's a green light, if I understand it correctly, that tells them that they did a good thing. And there's a red light that tells them if they did something that doesn't fit the profile of whatever we decide is quality of play, and that thing gets bigger if the play is worse. And again, if I'm wrong in any of this, please correct me, but that's how I'm understanding it. So my first thought is the fact that if I'm a kid that's 13 years old, I don't want to see a red light, right? And I don't want to see the red light get bigger. And and then the other thing that sticks out, and I can't help because I'm a parent, I don't pay any more for my kids to play, but I can't tell you how much I paid. We're worried about development, but the kids have to pay. They're going to get a few clips or some clips, but they got to pay for other clips. I don't know. As a parent, it doesn't add up for me. And as a parent that's probably a little bit more informed than some other parents might be in this space, I'd be lying if I say some of this doesn't sound fishy to me.
Okay.
And am I wrong in feeling that way?
No, absolutely not. I mean, I think if anything, we should be asking questions and be curious on why are we doing it this way. But it's actually the genesis of the entire project is like when we look at the last 60, 70 years, just as a country and our view towards development, I think we have to start with that question. Is like, are we any closer? Are we developing better players? And that answer is going to be subjective. The same way that you said you're a scout with the national team, the players that you're looking at, there's a level of subjectivity. Is it possible to have complete objectivity? Probably not. But I will address some of the details that you said with the 13-year-old that's watching or is looking at a red light and seeing a dot. I mean, isn't that part of development as well? Is looking and seeing how you made a mistake and learning from the mistake. And so what we're hoping is that player is willing to click on that dot and see the mistake that they made with the mindset of like, how can I grow from this? How can I be better? And as far as even those clips that you're talking about, these moments of significance, it's also rewarding the ones that the outcomes didn't necessarily turn out great. Like if that midfielder sees that ball, that breaking line ball, and it isn't executed perfectly, just the fact that they saw it is something we want to highlight. And that's also part of the player development as well. And just even having these conversations with this group who has had careers and understand the space, like I see that as a positive thing as well. Like as long as we continue to ask those difficult questions and are willing to try to get closer to the solution, I do think the solutions are out there. And the more and more I have these conversations and I listen to different perspectives, you start to hear an overlap. And what you're hoping is that you can take from that overlap and implement into what we're doing in player development at Major League Soccer to get us closer to finding that solution. It's like, I'm glad that we're having this conversation. If anything, I would ask that, I mean, over the last year, like there were so many moments where I was just skeptical. There were so many moments where I just wanted to scrutinize and say, like, there's no way we can do this. This doesn't make sense. But we would then go to MLS Academy directors. We go to MLS Academy coaches, and we'd present what's out there. And it was fascinating to hear how many were like, that's incredible that you found that clip. That's incredible that you saw that. And so what it started to do, it started to ease that anxiety that I had, because I knew that once you put this out there, it's going to be open to criticism. But isn't that also what we experience as pros? This level of criticism that comes with being on that stage in front of other people. And so it wasn't something that a company came to us and said, hey, this is what we should do. If anything, when the company came, I was like, no way. Like that, just from my experience, like there's no way we can do this. But the longer and longer we pressure test it, and the more and more people we expose it to, we started to realize that this isn't that far off. This is actually identifying areas that are going beyond subjectivity. These are areas that maybe a coach didn't see. And then here's the other thing that Taka ends up being: an incredible tool for coaches. So, Charlie, you said that you're in the youth space now. Jimmy, you said that you're coaching. Tony, you said that you coached. Imagine your life right now, how busy it is. And yet you're getting ready for your youth soccer team practice, but that's not your primary job. Do you really have time to go through video and clip it? And yet now what we've done is we have given coaches the ability to go through clips of their game that they can now implement and share and talk about with their players that wasn't previously there. And so quality of play isn't the end all be all. I think it's the very beginning, because it's through quality of play rankings and even what we're doing with Taka that we've now introduced this conversation that will keep going. But we've also introduced a competition that wasn't previously there at the end of the year for the 13s and 14s.
All right, we're going to take our first break and call what you want. When we come back, we got about 1,000 more questions for Luis Robles, so do not go anywhere.
She knows, and I know she knows.
Welcome back in to Call It What You Want. I'm Jimmy Conrad alongside Charlie Davies, Tony Viola, and our special guest and MLS Next technical director, Luis Robles, who once played for Kaiserslautern. Just wanted to throw it out there because Chuck brought it in a little bit earlier, and we got a big conversation going on about the quality of play. Now, Luis, so thank you for your time, of course, and for the answers and the insight on what you're trying to do, and that you had some skepticism. I think that's important to kind of demonstrate that you were a little wishy-washy on if this was going to work or not. And in some ways, we're still hopeful that it will, right? You're still going to have to see. It has to be implemented, and then we're going to find out. One thing that I do want to add.
That skepticism still remains. Like there's still ways that we have to improve it. But yeah, keep going. Sorry.
No. Okay, good. No, I appreciate that. So one of the things that when I coached or when I was helping out in the USL League 2 and I'm around college age players, one of the things I was fascinated about, I go to practice and I'm like, hey guys, did you watch Champions League? They're like, nah. I'm like, do you guys watch soccer at all? Nah, they don't really watch. And I thought, okay, then you're going to have a ceiling because you're not a student of the game. You have to be, if you're not a student of the game, you're going to have a ceiling. If you are a student of the game and you're trying to get better and you're talking about the subtleties and nuances and details that you're mentioning here, why video is important. When you got scored on, you wanted to see where your positioning is. All these little things matter. These details add up. This is something I preach when I coach. Then I think your ceiling is going to be a lot higher. And in some ways, you're helping these kids develop a growth mindset as well, which I think is important, and taking some pride in who they are and how they move. My concern is with the red light and green light thing in particular is when I got my kids, I want them to have recognition that, hey, I pick up my head. We're in the attacking third. There's 3 players. I want to be in a 1v1 situation, but there's 1 versus 3. The right decision in that moment is to pull it back, play it backwards, and now recycle it and try to get it to the other side, or try to find poke and prod where you can actually find the numerical advantage. I guess I'm projecting here, but I feel like that could be a red light. Like you're in the attacking third, you should be trying to get a cross off or get at least a corner. But for me, I'm working very hard on teaching recognition and feel for the game, that I need them to be able to scan quickly. Plan A is not on. How quickly can we get to plan B? We see that that's a bit of an issue, even in the pro game in this country, in our national team. Hey, if plan A is not working, guess what, everybody? More plan A. Well, you know what? Plan A isn't. It just pisses me off. I hate seeing that. Yeah. And I want to see some adaptability and fluidity in how my players play. And I fear that this green light, red light thing might squash some of that adaptability, because I don't know how the algorithm is set up with Taka, and I don't even know how you define quality, right? I mean, it's so subjective. And do the coaches have the power to decide what's red and green, or is that built by Taka itself? I'm going to stop here, but I've got like 1,000 follow-ups. Keep going. Go ahead.
No, it's great. You actually teed it up really nicely. So thank you for that. How this
well done, Jimmy.
Started.
Yeah, it wasn't by design.
We had all the academy directors, MLS academy directors at Generation Adidas Cup, and I played a clip, and it was Martin Odegaard from the top part of the circle finding a through ball as his forward or his winger is making sort of like a button run through the line, and then is like incredible vision. Like very few players. I can't. I mean, Tony, I know that you're world class, but like I couldn't have made that pass, and the pass doesn't come off. So it's just a little bit too far, and it goes to the keeper. And we pause the clip and we ask the entire room, please, in one word, describe this clip. And good, excellent, amazing, vision, only positive superlatives. And that is an example of what we're trying to do with Taka. So we want kids to try shit. We want kids to have that ability to try something, knowing that, especially at the 13s and 14s, we want to reward the vision in the idea and not the result. And that's what Taka is all about, is because it isn't AI. It is someone sitting down and watching the game and clipping the game.
Who's the person?
Who's the person? We have a group of they have like scouting backgrounds, and they're all based in Eastern Europe. So it's a really large group. And it takes 4.5 hours. So just for the 13s and 14s, and it also shows to the investment that Major League Soccer is making to player development, is because we're taking on that cost to analyze these games. But for the 13s and 14s specifically, we know that execution isn't going to be the same level as, I mean, think about like at U13s, my son is like barely 4'8", and the other day he was marking a forward that was 6 feet, right? Like there's the growth and maturation at this age is stunning. And so being able to try to now define the great moments and those moments of significance while understanding the kids are still growing and they're not going to be able to pull up. They're not even going to be able to kick the ball from the corner flag all the way to the goal at times. But what we're looking to do is reward their recognition of that play that you talked about. We're looking for them to be creative and say, hey, look, and that's what it is I think a lot of people are focused on the outcome. For us, it's less focused about the outcome. It's the idea, the creativity, even the vision to see that. There's one category that's specifically just off-ball intelligence. So a lot of times it's the winger recognizing that run so that the center mid could play the through ball, or defender realizing that there is a weak side run, and that's something that gets scored as well. But the idea is not to focus on the outcome. The idea is to find different moments that could be significant, that could influence the outcome of the game. It's just a different way of looking at it. But in order for us to even get to this place, we had to pressure test it with multiple layers, with academy coaches, with academy directors, and then eventually even some CSOs in Major League Soccer.
Luis, I love what I'm getting from you. I understand it a lot better, but I'm still super skeptical, and I'll tell you why. Because I think the plays where you have an Odegaard, you have a Jude Bellingham, players who can make that creative genius pass that you go, wow, I can see that. That's easy to rank, even if it doesn't end up going to the player. But for me, the player that we need and the players that we need to find more of and develop more of are the Vinny Juniors of the world, the Mbappes of the world, the Neymars of the world, the players who can do things on the ball, dribbling that may end up with a little red dot because you dribbled too much or you took too many touches. Maybe the dribble
Charlie,
didn't come
that's
off.
assuming that it ended up with a red dot, right? Because one of our projects is we wanted to find that dribbling 10. We said, look at the entire landscape. And we said to the analysts, and what we did is we just click these little filters. It's like, what do you want to find? We want to find an attacking midfielder that is creative on the ball, that's good at 1v1, and is excellent at shooting. And so through our entire landscape, because we're analyzing every player and analyzing every single game, we are able to find that player. And we showed it, again, to this group. And that's the other thing is, what I love about this is we're talking about player development. We're talking about soccer. And there just needs to be more of these conversations. There needs to be skepticism, and there needs to be people asking why. But the reason I also feel so confident in this group is I know each of you. I also know that you're also addressing it. Like, you're out there on the field. You want to be a part of that solution. So in the same way, that's what we're trying to do within our group at MLS Next. And so looking for that player is a huge priority of ours. We want that Vinny Jr. We want that creative 10. We want that player that we can sell for $100 million or be the face of the league. And so what we're able to do now, because we are analyzing plays, we're analyzing games, we're analyzing players, we've been able to identify that player, and we used it in the presentation. We said, this is a player that fit this criteria. And when you show, and that's the other thing is video also doesn't lie. All right. It's one thing for us to say, we found that player. It's another thing to say we found that player and then show the video. And you can see his ability to take people on, his ability to find that line breaking pass, his ability to shoot. So again, like, is this going to be the answer to finding all those players? No, but it is an attempt, and we're looking to reward those players. And by the way, when you watch the clips, not all of it comes off, but you see his ideas. And I think this is why it's so important to really emphasize that it is someone watching it with a soccer background, because they're the ones that it's not like my mom watching it, like, who has no idea, who watched soccer for 25 years, 30 years, and still can't tell you what offsides is. It's someone with a scouting background who Talk has hired to go and analyze those games, because I do think with what you said, Charlie, there is an added emphasis even internally to try to find more of those players. And if we just highlight all those as red dots, it is going to kill that creativity. And if anything,
100%.
We're trying to do the opposite. We're trying to do the opposite, where we want, like, why did at U13s we reduce the field size? Is because we wanted to get players with more touches. We wanted the money parts of the final third. We wanted more actions to the final third. We wanted to resemble a soccer match, not a track meet. And like I said, even at U13, and that's like, how is it that no one before me didn't think that was a good idea? Like, I'm not that smart. Like, I'm not some like soccer savant that's like, hey, you know what would be a good idea? Let's reduce the field size of the U13s. No, I think all I did was I just asked questions. And then I got to experience it myself because my kids play. And then I looked and had different reference points. What's Germany doing? What's England doing? What's Italy doing? What's Spain doing, these age groups? And then I asked myself, like, wait, if it's good enough for them, why wouldn't we consider it for us? And the nice thing at MLS Next is, because it's our league, if we think it's what's right for player development, that's a key thing. Player development, we're going to do it.
Yeah, I certainly get that part. So I'm going to take this maybe from a coaching angle. One, I was surprised you suggested, you didn't say it, but you suggested that coaches are almost seeing video and using it with their players for the first time in some cases. Mm-hmm. I'm shocked by that, because I coached at the youth level. When I did my A license was 8 years ago. I mean, we were using at Tabs Club, we were using video analysis on the weekly. We had one session a week with each kid. So I'm shocked that we're only at that point right now, if I understood you right. Mm-hmm. And then the other thing is, What happens when I go, Luis, and I watch this, and I'm going to use the red dot only because it's a visual that people will understand. And I see a bunch of red dots, but I'm like, no, that's a green dot for the way I want to play. Like, how does that get adjusted, right? I'm watching this. My kid now comes, coach, you told me to do X, whatever it is, doesn't matter, right? And I did it, but now I got a red dot. And remember, you're dealing with 13-year-olds at this point, right? Like, now you got to like almost parent, you got to coach, you got to parent, you got to be a little bit of a psychology major in this thing. Like, how does it account for that? But I guess the first part for me is the video part. Like, are we only at the point that we're doing video now?
I mean, I think it varies. Like, look at your background, Tony. Like, you understand growth mindset. You understand how important it is to watch yourself. You understand how important it is for kids to learn visually. And so you implemented that. But you can't say that that's the same for every youth soccer coach in this country, right? And so now what we're doing is we're trying
But hold on. We're talking about MLS Next coaches, right? Who I'm assuming have gone through U.S. soccer coaching badges at some level, right? There must be some minimum, either B. I don't know what the minimum is, but I'm assuming they've gone through.
Is there a minimum coaching requirement license-wise for MLS Next?
So an MLS Next is B license. To be an academy director, it's an A license, and have your badges for director leadership. So yeah, Tony, you're absolutely right. And what I was talking about is MLS Next. And so what we're trying to do is give resources for coaches to not only improve their sessions, improve their players, but just the overall experience for everyone. And so even using Taka and the platform, I know what I've heard of is some teams, they just set up Zoom calls and they're now able to go through that. But what's wild is even from a Next standpoint, the video exchange wasn't openly available for everyone. And so even just from an improvement for 24-25 is now available for all coaches, it's available for scouts, and it's available for players. And so when I hear about these Zoom sessions, I'm thinking, yeah, we contribute to that because we want players to be able to watch more video, because a lot of times, when would you watch that video? Maybe you had an iPad on the field. Maybe when you're traveling and you're in the hotel, you're like, hey, look, let's see this for the first time. And you would try to be consistent, but even the consistency is a challenge. Whereas now, because of the resources that we've given coaches and players, they can make that just part of their weekly training session. They're not even on the field. As long as they have access to a phone or a tablet or a laptop, they can now have those sessions. And going back to even just the time management of coaches, instead of sitting there and having to clip for every single player, we've done the work for them. So it encourages them to have those conversations with the players. I can even say for my son's team, his coach now gives them assignments and says, hey, look, you need to go watch this game, and I want to hear your thoughts on the clip. That's part of their growth process. And then the second part that you mentioned, there's an active feedback loop. So coaches, through their profile, have the ability to speak directly and leave a comment to the Taka platform, and then they can go through that feedback and make an adjustment if necessary.
Yeah, that's good. And it's so important, right, to have Jimmy those clips done for you.
Yeah.
Because that is a pain in the ass. That's not an easy process. No, it is.
Time consuming for sure.
It really is. It's tough.
And if we're able to overcome that, then we're hoping that clears that hurdle that they want to do that. But like, think about that challenge as a coach is like, now I got to sit down and watch this video and I got to clip it so I can have those conversations. That to some who have a full-time job and may have a family is daunting. And so we recognize if we can even help there, that is going to help our players as one of our objectives to develop them to be better professionals.
Well, it helps the coaches too, right? As they continue to streamline how they want to play, because they might identify, actually, this isn't working. Let's try to do something else. Okay, last question. We could talk to you probably for another couple hours, Luis, just about this topic in particular.
I love that.
So when I think about this quality of play initiative coming in, it's on the heels of the U.S. men's national team not playing very well at the Nations League and not showing fight and being labeled as soft, right? That they don't know how to win. And so how does this factor into what you're doing? And do you take any consideration into, we still need to develop people that know how to win games and know how to manage games. We're up 1-0. Okay. I might get the biggest red dot in my life, but I'm lumping the shit out of that ball up the line because there's only 2 minutes left and we got to kill the game off. Right. And so And so, like, where does in-game management and the feel of the game and understanding the situation and the awareness of understanding the situation, how to hold a high line? Like, I've got so many questions, but in terms of just winning, where does that factor in? Because that is still what we're trying to do at the end. And you still want to develop that mentality as well. And I think that's a big question with regard to where a lot of people, even when we talk about it off camera, we don't want to lose that ability to learn how to win and know how to win and manage games.
Compete, right? To compete. And this is where this journey started. Is previously there wasn't an end of year competition for 13s and 14s. And when I think about, it's very difficult for me to just take out the part of my own personal experience to become a professional that wasn't competition. Right? When I think about U13, U14 State Cup, that was like the pinnacle of the year.
Oh,
at the end of the year, right? Like
that.
those teams that you didn't play all year strategically. And then it was King of the Mountain at the end of the year. And even there's a phase to that, because if my coach, and I don't know if he did this by design, said, look, in the season, we're going to really focus on the team that we want to be. We're going to focus on developing. But at the end of the year, we know at the end phase, it is going to be back to the wall, winner stays on the court, King of the Mountain. I think there's something to that too. And so the question that we're constantly asking is, what role does competition play in the development of a player? And what we've come up with is we have to prioritize by age group. At the 13s and 14s, we understand that the player as an individual, we have to put the onus on developing them. But we can also introduce competition because competition is part of their development. Whereas at the U17s, U19s, that's a different ballgame, right? Competition ends up being a bulk of it. And so when I think about where we were before, and we had a league that the standings, whatever, it was a reference point for clubs and parents to say we finished at the very top of the standings, but there was no competition at the end. That just didn't sit well with me. And so if we could create prioritization, and in the 13s and 14s specifically, where that season is about, hey, develop your style of play, develop those players, develop the type of team that you want to be. And we're also providing accountability to those coaches through the rankings. But then it's through the rankings, you're going to get invited to this end of year competition to see who ends up being last person standing. I think that helps competition. I think that helps player development. And I think it helps us get closer to what you're talking about, Jimmy. Understanding the situation. Understand during the regular season, it means this. But also we want to get to here. And at the end of the season, when it's the competition, it's no longer about the rankings. It's no longer about pass completion. It's about what the score is at the end and whether or not you're still the team that progresses towards the final.
I love the fact that this is a pilot, Luis. I'm gonna say that right now. There's no harm in trying. There is no harm in trying to see if this can produce more players that we want to see at the senior level. My only question is, did US Soccer have any input in this? Did you go to Matt Crocker and say, I know you've worked with youth for a long period of time. What are your thoughts on this? Is this something that, could maybe be used at the youth level for the US youth national teams?
We've shared it with everyone. So we shared it with college coaches. We've shared it with first team coaches. We've shared it with MLS Academy directors, with academy coaches, with US Soccer. And we've also allowed them to give feedback. We've asked them to be critical, because the last thing I wanted is for everyone to be like, oh, this is amazing. And then what's finally out there, I'm the one that's exposed because it ended up being garbage. Right. So you want to have those conversations. You want to have those difficult conversations. You want to have those different point of views, but you also want to give them the space to make it better. And having those conversations allows us to tweak, allows us to add, allows us to reduce. And I will say that their scouts, they have access to all 16,000 players that are currently competing in Next, because we want all of those players to have the opportunity to try to represent their national team.
Was US Soccer's response positive? Did you get a lot of good positive feedback from?
Absolutely. It was very positive, and yet it was very constructive. And there were certain areas that we tweaked because they're also looking for that player that we just talked
about.
It isn't just Major League Soccer. It's US Soccer. It's CSA. And so their reaction was first blown away. They couldn't even comprehend the level of detail that goes into the analysis and even those like significant moments. But then the other part is, hey, this isn't a love session. Like, let us know, how do we make this better? Because the only way that we're going to be better and even make because the goal is to make our players better, is we need to hear your feedback, and it's got to be critical and it's got to be constructive. And so now having a conversation like this, I would hope to have more former players be a part of the conversation, because if we're all moving in that direction, now I'm starting to think, and we all understand what the goal is. The goal is to make this the best league in the world, to make our national teams the best national teams in the world, to develop better professionals. I do think that we're getting closer to solving that jigsaw puzzle of player development.
Luis Robles, everybody, thank you so much for your time and your insights. And
he came to sit on the hot seat, and he delivered. He delivered. He delivered.
Good insight. We look forward. I don't know. Maybe have you back on in a year. You can give us an update on how it's all.
Jimmy, I can only think.
I can't wait to say I just found the next Conradinho, the next Chuck Davis.
So. That'd be amazing. Hopefully, they're 10 times better than I ever was.
Jimmy, all I was thinking about that whole show is, if Jimmy keeps this pass in bounds, it's going to be a green light. The rest of it is a red light. That's all.
Hey, it's everybody's going to have their own player profile tones, right? Green and red.
I love it. Good stuff, Luis.
Thank you so much for your time.
Tony's only green.
Oh, yeah. Incredible.
Yeah.
Incredible.
This is Jimmy Red Dot Conrad.
That's my new nickname.
Guys, thanks for having me on.
All right, Luis Robles, everybody. We got one more break. When we come back, we'll talk trash about Luis behind his back. Don't go anywhere.
Love it, dude. Please, constructively.
Kaiserslautern.
The clock never stops. Relive the greatest moments with uninterrupted highlights and more.
It's Gareth Bale. Ronaldo! Wonderful goal.
On the UEFA Champions League channel. Streaming free.
Guess what, everybody? I have a new nickname. Thanks for that, Chuck. Jimmy Red Dot Conrad. Oh, baby. Absolutely love that. I'm here with Charlie Davies and Tony Miola. Good conversation with Luis Robles. Anything stand out for you, Big Tones? Oh, he's on mute. Tony, hit the mute button.
Mute.
They didn't take me out of the commercial break. No, I have a clearer picture of what the program is. Are you
feeling better about it? You feeling?
I kind of feel the same. I'm actually more scared about the coaches than I am the players. The players are getting feedback. I'm like, this is too easy for I hope the coaches don't use it as a crutch, and they continue to try and develop. But I mean, look, it's a pilot program, like you said, Chuck, and
let's give it a shot.
Let's see where it goes. Right,
Chuck? How about you?
Yeah,
feeling better about it.
I think at the end of the day, it is a test. For them, they're trying to figure out ways to find more players, to inspire more players by showing them what they can do or highlighting a mistake. I think this is something that I took out of it. A player can make a mistake, but to show them that the idea was right. The execution was almost there. It didn't come off. And I don't want you to think that this is a mistake. I want you to do more of it. So if that inspires more players to play like a Martin Odegaard, which is the player that he highlighted, or a Vinny Jr., the Bukayo Saka, players that are so inventive and creative, then go do it. I thought it was funny too. He said U.S. soccer was blown out of the water, right? Been like, oh my God, this is so transformative. Like, oh my, yes. Well, I think anyone's gonna say, if you're trying something new and different that's gonna help everyone, then go ahead and try it. Again, it's a trial, so why not? If it backfires, if the guys in Eastern Europe are sitting, watching these games, smoking a cigarette, maybe they push the wrong, hit the wrong dot for a guy, who knows? I don't know who these guys are watching. So you never know, but
we're handing the future of our this generation to some random people in Eastern Europe. Makes me laugh.
Are we not concerned a little bit about the pay for whatever the videos? Like I don't know. I'm still a little bit skeptical on that one.
Yeah, you didn't actually send the video of me dribbling down the right. Well, you got to pay an extra $9.99 for that.
Charlie, you want to
Yeah.
see your goal, Charlie?
Exactly.
$9.99
You gotta
a month,
pay for it.
or whatever it is.
Oh no, the key elements? No. You got to pay $9.99 to get that one. Okay, sure.
Yeah. I would have to pay even more because I'd only have 1 or 2 green dots throughout a game. So
Jimmy, you're gonna get all your red dots for free, but those green ones, you're gonna have to pay for them.
you want to go to college, pal? You're gonna have to pay for those green dots. All right, let's get into some.
I can't imagine that's cheap, that program. I would imagine there's some money attached to that thing.
No question. Yeah, and I look forward to diving into that a little bit more as we have more time progress and we can get see how it's coming together one way or the other. All right, let's talk about Americans abroad. We teased it at the beginning of the show. We do have some notable performers and performances to address. We had Josh Sargent scoring his 14th goal of the season in Norwich's 2-1 loss to Plymouth. I don't think Norwich is getting into the championship playoff anytime soon, so we'll see what Josh Sargent's future looks like over the summer, but obviously he's been on fire for his club. Haji Wright scored his 11th goal of the season. He's got 4 and 4 since coming back from injury in a 2-1 loss to Burnley. Malik Tillman scored his 12th goal of the season for PSV in a 3-1 win versus Groningen, his first start back, and Peter Bosch, his coach, was with high praise with his return. Christian Pulisic recorded his 8th assist of the season in all competitions in a 2-2 draw with Fiorentina. Milan, not looking good. Resident Milan fan Tony Mute Ola, as people are calling you now in the comments. Paxton Aronson recorded an assist in a 2-2 draw versus Go Ahead Eagles, one of my favorite named team in the world of soccer. Then Ethan Horvath, give him a little shine. He recorded 4 saves in a 0-0 draw for Cardiff City versus QPR. The big question though is that Yunus Musah was also in that Milan game, that 2-2 draw against Fiorentina. And Tones, I'm going to come to you first on this one. He had been sick, so he coming into training or didn't train much. Gets the start from Conceição, a lot of trust from Conceição. He makes a mistake early. He just doesn't look good, and they're down 2-0. He gets subbed off in the 23rd minute, and I don't know where you come back from that. Frankly, I think Conceição was very warm to him when he came off the field, and was warm to him in his comments afterwards. But as a player, I just don't know. That's hard. That's a really hard one. And I don't think it's going to.
Yeah.
I don't know where Yunus Musah goes from here. And I guess there's a bigger conversation about whether he's stagnated. And this happens to every player in terms of growth and development, where you kind of like a rocket ship. Sometimes you'll just be on fire. You'll have everything. And then you just can't reach those same heights. You're just kind of stuck. And then eventually you'll pop back up again. And I don't know if he's going to pop back up again, given his current situation in Milan.
Well, I mean, he's played a lot, and Conceição has believed in him, right? He's given him opportunities, and unfortunately, the 24 minutes is coupled with the fact that he gave the ball away at midfield and it led directly to the goal. Yeah, it's a strange one because this is the second time that Yunus Musah has been pulled out in the first half of a game, non-injury related, right? So that's really tough to come back from. As you mentioned, there was a report that Musah had left the field, a player was asked to go down and get him, brought him back. Conceição, said to him, "Hey, look, this is my fault. I got the tactics wrong." He didn't replace him like for like. He didn't put another defensive midfielder in. He put an attacking player in and changed the formation completely. So that's probably how he sold it to him. But you guys know, if you get subbed out in the first half of a game, or you go in at halftime and you get subbed in, you get subbed out at some point in the second half, you know how you're feeling. You're not feeling good about it.
Yeah.
I look at Yunus Musah and he just hasn't been playing well for a while. And there are the moments where he does something well, but then it ends with a bad ball or a bad shot or a giveaway. And so I think there's 2 things to this. One, he's only 22 years old and he's at Milan. So he's still relatively young and he's at a super massive club, high level. I don't think he was necessarily, a world beater at Valencia before he made this move anyway. So he was kind of in and out of the team, and then he goes all of a sudden to a massive move to Milan. And that was based on pure potential, given his age. I think now with a World Cup on the horizon, I think a loan will probably make the most sense for him for next year in a club that is, mid-table, where he's going to play a lot more. And I think he still needs to grow in a lot of areas. He obviously has an incredible foundation as a player, but I think truly he's a central player. He's an 8. He's more like a Darlington Nagbe. He's not your goal scorer. He's not your straight up defensive midfielder. He's that extra midfielder who can get you out of tough problems. He shuttles it left to right, but he hasn't been a player that's been driving at back lines and creating overloads or creating opportunities. That hasn't been him. Can he develop into that? Potentially. But right now he just needs minutes, and he needs minutes in a position that he's best suited for in the future, in my mind.
No, it's a good point. And I do think if he can get a loan and just play one spot, we've talked about Weston McKennie in this capacity too, where they just play so many different, and Tim Weah, right? They play so many different positions, man. If they could just stick in one spot and just be great and learn how to be great in that one area of the field, maybe they could really elevate to that other level, as opposed to having to sprinkle their quality in different areas and not really shine at any one particular thing. They're good, but maybe not great. And so I guess we used Yunus as an example here. Are we asking him to be something that he's not? We've seen enough of him. Tony, you actually make a good point. It's not like he's not playing like a Gio Reyna. Like, well, we know he's got potential, and we just need him to. We just need to play it. We just need to see him play more. If he just plays more, but he is playing a lot, and we're still not seeing maybe the end result of what that amount of time should look like. So I wonder if he's hit stagnated, plateaued, whatever the word is here, to what's going to kick him on to that next thing. It's a big question that isn't isolated to him. I mean, we could talk Josh Sargent. Now he's kind of going to be stuck if he's done what he's going to do at the champion. He's almost in some ways outgrown the championship. He can score goals in the championship. He needs to be now cutting his teeth at the next level. Let's even segue to Josh Sargent, because the guy has been 14 goals, 5 assists in the EFL championship this season. Even if he gets promoted, Norwich doesn't have any chance. But let's say that they did. We've already seen him in the Premier League playing for Norwich. He's just defending the whole time. So how can he get somewhere too? God, it's such a big summer for so many of our players.
Yes, it is.
It is so, when you start to think about it, player for player, it just becomes absolutely crazy how many guys need to find better situations than they're currently in.
And Jimmy, I think what also compounds the situation is how poor the U.S. men's national team has been playing. So let's say the U.S. took care of business at Nations League. They won their 4th consecutive Nations League trophy. They were balling. Everyone's saying Pochettino's got a hold of the team. That and guys still have massive summers. Because you're saying, okay, you leave the situation you're in? Do you want to, as a player, we all want to be in a situation where we're playing the best opponents, we're playing with the best possible teammates, and we're making the most money. So you're constantly always evaluating your situation and saying, do I want to make a move that gives me the most money, but also gives me the best chance of playing in the Champions League or winning a trophy? And now we're at I think we're in a junction where it's, I got to be playing. Forget about money. Forget about almost the trophy aspect. I need to be in a good situation where I'm playing every week, because now guys in MLS, they're not playing for relegation or promotion. They're playing for Champions League a year. They're just playing, and they're getting into the team now because they're in a rhythm. They're playing. I need to get back to that. So there's a lot going into this summer.
And Pochettino said as much, right, in his early press conference. He said, because he was asked about players not playing, and he said, I don't know if it was his first or press conference or not. Probably was after they had that sit around, that round table discussion. But he said, I'm not going to judge that part of it now, but a year out, players need to be playing at their club. Mm-hmm. So let's see. He's clearly talking about what you're talking about, Charlie and Jimmy. This summer, that's what he's talking about. You need to get in a position where you're playing. So let's see if he sticks to all of that. I think he will. I think he will, based on our discussions.
Well, that's what makes the Yunus Musah situation so interesting, because he is playing. He's just not playing well. So yeah, you have that part of the equation. Okay, I'm in a situation. Do I just stick it out here where maybe I don't fit the best, or I'm just being utilized too much? Do I go find somewhere else? God, this is This is I'm very curious because to your point, Charlie, if you're the agent of this particular player and you're hearing what your national team coach is saying a year out from the biggest World Cup ever and your potential role within that and the money that could come with that, right? You want to look at all angles of this. You want to be as Jerry Maguire about this whole situation as you can. And then as the player, you're like, I need to be able to play where I'm being trusted and where I can show that I can be trusted by our national team as well. Man, there are a lot of layers to what's happening this summer, and I'm curious to see how these individual players within the player pool try to solve these problems. This will be kind of our last part of the conversation.
I mean, yeah,
because we can talk about this for another 2 hours.
Think about Turner, Reyna, Musah, Sargent. Then you could throw in Cardoso.
Pepe? Is Pepe fall?
No,
because it depends what De Jong does.
Well, Pepe just
he's
signed
hurt.
a long-term deal with PSV. He's coming back. He's done.
Yeah,
He's gonna be there. But Cardoso potentially moving this summer. If you go to Tottenham, which he's rumored to go to, and then doesn't play after playing,
that's a risk.
in right? You're now evaluating: is it a risk worth taking the year before World Cup? Where if this was the first year of the cycle, you're jumping with your whole body with 2 feet. You're going. But now does this make sense? And a lot of these players, let's say Gio Reyna finds himself in a good club situation in Europe, a lower league, maybe at the top of the table of that lower league, the top 3, but he's playing consistently, gets healthy. And next thing you know, we have Gio Reyna back to being the kid that we always thought he could be. That's a game-changing player that you could, in essence, get. Yeah. If Josh Sargent moves to a top-level league in Europe, a top 5 league, in maybe it's a mid-table team, but he's banging goals in and he's scoring goals. No, but maybe he's scoring just as many goals, if not more, on a better team with better players around him, and they have possession. And then maybe he gets another chance and he takes it. These are all hypotheticals, but
of course,
it's just to your point, Jimmy, it's a massive summer.
As it gets closer, I get a little bit more and more nervous. But obviously some results would change. If we play well against Turkey and Switzerland and then have a good solid Gold Cup, we're all going to be feeling a lot better about the situation.
Wait, I have to address this.
Yeah, one last comment. Let's go.
Yeah. Derek V asked, define lower league, Charlie. Okay, lower league. If Josh Sargent left to go to Sporting because their striker ends up going to the Premier League, which obviously it's floated all over that he is leaving this summer, and replaces him, and next thing you know, scores 20 goals for Sporting. That's a lower league that, in essence, elevated him, just like it did for I'm blanking on his name. Who
Gyökeres?
Yeah, Gyökeres, who was at Coventry and didn't perform well. So he went from the Championship, not performing well, to go to Sporting and absolutely went on a rocket ship. So I think that's a perfect example of a player making a move to a lower league, can still play Champions League or Europa League, benefit in 1 year's time, and hopefully add value to the U.S. men's national team.
Yeah, that's a good shout. I like that example a lot. Big Tones, I'm going to give you the final thought of today's show before we let everybody go. What are your thoughts overall and anything that you want to discuss? What do you got,
yeah,
Tones?
look, obviously,
send us out.
Obviously, the big topic was the conversation with Luis Robles, and yeah, I'm a little bit clearer, and hopefully it works. I mean, I'm all for developing young players and developing. I just don't want to create robots in the end. I don't want to create kids that are worried about the fact if they get a red dot or a green dot. I want them to figure it out. I'm like you and I. We actually had this discussion. Oh, Chuck was part of that too a year ago about the. And I hope we do more discussions on development and maybe get questions from our viewers on what they want to hear about. There's no one way to do it. I completely understand that. I just hope we start learning how to develop that special player, because as I said, when I go to those academy, or when I used to go to those academy events, man, they all look the same because we were just doing the same thing across the board. And that's the scary part for me. But like two of you, I want to see the sport grow like everybody else.
All right, we'll see what happens. We obviously have to wait and be very patient to see how this bears out, but it should be fun to keep an eye on. All right, we are done with the show. Special announcement, though. Join us again on Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 5 p.m. Pacific, live here on the Glosso America YouTube channel for our immediate reaction to the CONCACAF Gold Cup draw. Yes, we're going to get into it. We'll see who the U.S. is playing against and how we can find our way into the final against either Mexico or Canada. That's going to be the big discussion. But that's it. We are done. Thanks for hanging out with us as always. Thank you again to Luis Robles, and we'll see you guys again on Thursday, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific here live on the Glosso America YouTube channel. See you then. Later.